Hi, and greetings on this Friday. We are now halfway through the month of April already. I mean, it's gorgeous, and it's going to be gorgeous for a while weather-wise, but we're still halfway through this fourth month already. Time is quickly flying by. School will be out before you know it, and then summer, and then, man, just all in a flash. This program as well, over in a flash, but not before a great deal of headlines for this evening. People from Magoffin, Johnson, and other counties indicted in Johnson County earlier this week. We'll go over the full list in just a few moments. Former Paintsville Utilities manager Larry Harrell did enter a plea today. We'll also talk about the latest developments in the case still pending against Mayor Bob Porter and Euless Crace in Paintsville. We'll talk about updates in court cases here in Magoffin County and latest filings there and motions for continuances and other court documents that have all been filed as of today and for the past several days this week. A whole lot of other news and information, a special invitation from some special folks who have been coming here. I told them earlier, you all have been here so long, it's kind of like you just belong here. You're not really visitors anymore, but 50 years in the making this summer for the Dayton group, and they want you to kind of help them be a part of the remembrance, if you will. And I'll tell you how that will. I'll let Mr. Dave Campbell tell you in just a few moments. A whole lot of other headlines, including a Magoffin County man sentenced to 15 years in prison yesterday for probation violations. We'll go back and give you the background on the case in just a few moments. With all that said, and of course a beautiful forecast to wrap up this Friday's program. As I referred to just a second ago, individuals from several counties, Johnson, Magoffin, and others, as well as other states, included in indictments returned by a sitting Johnson County grand jury earlier this week. In all, 11 individuals were indicted. 53-year-old Todd Newsom from Leander was indicted on a charge of elder abuse and or exploitation for engaging in actions that caused the loss of over $500 to a resident also from the Leander area. 38-year-old Roy K. Allen of Neely was indicted on first-degree possession of a controlled substance for reportedly being in possession of methamphetamine. He was also indicted on charges of public intoxication with a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia for being in possession of digital scales, and criminal trespassing for allegedly entering and remaining on a property belonging to another Mealy resident without authority. 29-year-old William Barton of Boone's Camp was indicted on charges of fleeing and evading police in the first degree, wanton endangerment in the first, assault in the third, and criminal mischief in the second degree, as well as improper display of registration plates. He was reportedly involved in an incident with two Johnson County sheriff's deputies. He tried to flee them before being arrested and showed extreme indifference to human life that could have caused serious injury to either one of the law enforcement officers, as well as causing significant damage, more than $500 worth of damage, to a police cruiser. Of three individuals indicted for flagrant non-support, one was 23-year-old Michelle Blevins of Paintsville for failing to pay child support in the amount of $2,235. 25-year-old Randall Dante II of Ashland was indicted on a charge of second-degree escape and being a persistent felony offender also in the second degree. He reportedly tried to remove his electronic ankle bracelet while being under home incarceration as part of a sentence issued through the Lawrence County Circuit Court system. 31-year-old Aaron Pennington of Flat Gap was indicted on charges of second-degree burglary and being a persistent felony offender. He reportedly entered a home in Wittensville with the intent to commit a theft. 27-year-old Shelley Collins of Louisa was indicted on a charge of promoting contraband in the first degree for introducing controlled substances into the Big Sandy Regional Detention Center. As well, she was indicted for being a persistent felony offender. 44-year-old Stephen Wells of Paintsville allegedly failed to pay child support in the amount of more than $1,200 and was indicted on a charge of flagrant non-support. A Salyersville man identified as 29-year-old Matthew Joseph was indicted on two charges of bail jumping in the first degree and two charges of being a persistent felony offender in the second degree. He also reportedly failed to appear for rearrangement hearings in two separate cases against him. 27-year-old Elizabeth Skeens of Auxshire was indicted on a charge of promoting contraband and being a persistent felony offender for being found in possession of methamphetamine while incarcerated in the Big Sandy Jail. And not shown is 38-year-old Jennifer McKenzie of Ironton, who allegedly failed to pay child support in the amount of more than $3,585. In other headlines, a Magoffin County man was sentenced to 15 years in prison yesterday in Magoffin County Court for probation and parole violations related to rape and unlawful imprisonment charges stemming from an incident back in June of 2011. It was then that 50-year-old Gerald Williams of Falcon in McGoffin County was charged, but he later reached a plea agreement in March of 2013 with the Commonwealth. That agreement sentenced him to 5 years in probation. But if he violated the stipulations of his probation, he would serve 10 years to an amended charge of rape in the second degree, no force, and 5 years for the unlawful imprisonment charge. However, after making contact with his victim and committing other violations, a Floyd County hearing was held this past March 11th, just a few weeks ago, and it resulted in his probation being revoked by Judge Tom Smith. And Williams was sentenced in McGoffin County Court yesterday with the amended order saying that the Commonwealth, and through counsel, respectfully moves for the court to revoke the defendant's probation, saying that Williams had committed at least 4 major probation violations, with the most recent special supervision report detailing the way in which he had violated the no-contact provision of his probation. Thus, the Commonwealth moved that the defendant's probation was revoked and that he be sentenced to serve out the remainder of his sentence in consecutive days and not concurrent. Therefore, he was sentenced to 10 years on the rape in the second degree charge and 5 years on the unlawful imprisonment charge, which will run consecutively for a total of 15 years, after it was deemed that he was a danger to the victim and could not be supervised in a community setting. He was given credit for time served of 556 days. Williams had not been out of prison all that long before that June 16, 2011 charge. He had actually been ordered to serve 10 years in prison in 2002 for manslaughter charges as it related to the death of Tammy Howard of McGoffin County. I'll be right back after this. For high-speed internet starting at 15 meg for all of your gaming, movie, home, and business solutions, or to watch TV, including your favorite local channels without a contract, with hundreds of channels and digital and HD quality, and to stay connected 24/7 with friends and family, a direct line to 911, or to give your business the link it needs, choose telephone service you know is always there. Just click on their link on this site to find out how affordable the latest technology in communications can be. Foothills Communications. I told Dave Campbell, who you'll hear from in just a few seconds, that you've been here so long, you're really not visitors anymore, so it's kind of hard to think of you that way, but you can't not think about the Dayton group when the summer rolls around. Dave Campbell can vividly recall his first trip in the summer of '87 to McGoffin County. The University of Dayton actually started an Appalachia Club, bringing clothes and food to the mountains. Sometime around the same time that President Lyndon B. Johnson, of course, declared a war on poverty, and then they started to bring students thereafter, that being the University of Dayton, to Burton Fork. And then since then they've been tutoring, playing games, activities, teen and youth social skills and goals, and building relationships, all their focus since. And now they are coming back this summer for their 50th anniversary, but before then, and 1 week from tomorrow, they'd like a little help from you getting together their special celebration.
You know, we come down for a summer and we get to meet so many incredible people that at the end of the summer, most people's lives are the same, except for those students who return home with a wealth of new friendships and relationships and new experiences that they'll carry with them the rest of their lives.
In lieu of their upcoming 50th anniversary in Appalachia this summer, the University of Dayton started putting together a remembrance, if you will, last year. Now, ahead of their 50th return to Eastern Kentucky, they're hoping to hear from you, and they're going to be here early. They're going to be here this summer, but they're also going to be here 1 week from tomorrow, Saturday the 23rd, hoping that as many of our local folks as possible will come to the Ramey Park for just a few minutes and share some memories to be included in their 50th anniversary presentation.
We're going to do a reunion on the weekend of July 16th, this upcoming summer. And I have been working with some other participants from past years to try and gather kind of the reflections and memories of a number of the UD former students who spent their summers down there. And we're going to gather those and maybe even put them in a book format down the line. But as we were talking, we said, you know, we really would love to hear from people who have participated in the programs from down in Syersville, because we've only got one side of the story with the students. And so on Saturday, April 23rd, we're going to be at the park from 1 to 3. And we would love for anybody who's ever participated in any way, shape, or form with the Dayton group, whether it was just in, Dayton group visiting them, or whether they were part of the programs as a child, or whether they've had kids that have gone to the programs, to come down to the park. And we're going to do a brief little interview and just want to share kind of what were the experiences and the reflections of the people from Syersville of the Dayton group, so that we can capture those memories and those reflections as well.
Who knows how many hundreds of kids and adults from the Dayton group have come to Syersville, McGoffin County, and eastern Kentucky over that 50-year span. Maybe they do. I'm sure it's a big, big number. But in speaking with Dave earlier today, he said something a couple of times that really stuck with me, that kind of just goes on to further illustrate what kind of folks would do just that every summer. He kept talking about how they were celebrating and wanted to recognize everything that the folks in Syersville had given them, when I would think that it would be just the opposite for all of us here in Syersville and McGoffin County to be so appreciative of all the things that they have given to so many of our kids over so many years.
Well, the program's always been about building relationships and growing through relationships, and then incredible things can happen. And so, I guess it is a blessing that the university's been in Syersville for so many years, and there's turnover each year, but what those students, and myself included, take home with us after that summer changes us for a lifetime. And so I've been blessed that I live close enough in Cincinnati that I'm able to make it back to Syersville on a regular basis. I get down there each summer to visit the Dayton group and to see some friends and families that I've kept in touch with over the last 27, 28 years. And my family gets to visit with them and to know them, and that's been a real gift in my life. And I know many other people, have come back either to visit or to stay in the area, or, to just keep those relationships growing. And that's been a real gift for all of us.
They'll be here next Saturday, 1 till 3, and I think they're rolling into town maybe Wednesday or so next week. So we'll be reminding you in hopes that, I know this affects a lot of folks, you can come down and spend a little time with them in the Ramey Park. On our McGoffin Farm Bureau community calendar tonight with a reminder about the hot dog wagon in town tomorrow. All proceeds going to benefit the Children's Miracle Network. They'll be in Syersville with a $6 per plate special, in which you can choose hot dogs with sauce, or pulled pork, or smoked pork, or tenderloin sandwiches with beans, coleslaw, and a drink for just $6. They'll have a car wash for $5 and a bake sale as well. It's all in front of your Syersville Rite Aid tomorrow, 11 till 2. All proceeds once again going to the Children's Miracle Network. The rest of our calendar starts off with a birthday wish. An extra special happy 77th birthday wish today to Barbara Lou Salyer with a whole lot of love from kids Gina, Connie, and Marcella, and David, grand and great grandkids, and a host of family and friends. Happy 77th birthday, Barbara Lou. Don't forget about Revival coming up this coming Monday at the Burning Fork Community Church. It will be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week, 7 p.m. nightly, with Charles Glover speaking, and Pastor Doug Dunn welcomes everyone to the Burning Fork Community Church for Revival. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nightly at 7. Also, Revival ongoing beginning this Sunday at 6 and then nightly thereafter at 7 next week at the Bradley Free Will Baptist Church on Burning Fork with James Kelly Caudle preaching. You're invited by Pastor Randy Haney and everyone at Bradley Free Will Baptist. Sunday at 6, nightly thereafter at 7. And remember, this coming Monday is another opportunity to join them for the Youth and Family Bike and Walk event at the Dawkins Trail. They'll leave the Jane Bashir Trailhead, and they're giving away prizes, a $100 gift card from Pro Fitness, a Fitbit, and an iPod, bike and walk apparel. And every time you go on Monday, you get registered to win 2 really nice bicycles at the end of the month. Bring the kids, get out and enjoy them next Monday, 5:30. And don't forget workshops next week, Thursday and Friday, at your McGoffin County Extension Office for how to build a raised bed garden with a hands-on demonstration at noon on Thursday, and then at noon on Friday. Get the most out of your small garden. Get the most out of your announcement, birthday, anniversary, or otherwise, by sending them to us. Doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is tell me so I can tell everyone else. And you can do it by mail, email, Facebook, phone, fax, or dropping it off here at the studio. Turning to funeral service announcements, we now have a listing in honor of 17-year-old Seth Alexander Barnett of Houston, Texas, formerly of Magoffin, who passed away on the 12th, the son of Michael and Betty Carol Howard Barnett. Besides his parents, he's also survived by 3 brothers, Michael, Brian, and Zachary. Visitation is this evening, all day tomorrow, and prior to Sunday services that will start at 11 that morning. Visitation and services all from the Magoffin County Funeral Home, and burial following at the Barnett Family Cemetery located at Stinson. We just received word of the passing of 85-year-old Levna Howard of Sagersville, passing away on today's date. The Magoffin County Funeral Home tells me that they will be in charge of arrangements, but that they are incomplete at this hour, but to be announced soon. Arrangements also incomplete at this hour for 96-year-old Henry McDaniel of Lick Branch, Noctor in Jackson, formerly of Sagersville. We know that funeral arrangements are being arranged at the Sagersville Funeral Home at this time and to be announced soon in his honor. In other headlines, former Painesville Utilities manager Larry Harold said he lied to the FBI today in changing his plea from not guilty to guilty in the case that's still ongoing involving Mayor Bob Porter and Painesville businessman Ulysses Crace. He did so this morning in federal court in London, pleading guilty to the 6th count of the superseding indictment that added Ulysses Crace to Harold and Porter. He did so admitting that he made false statements to federal investigators, specifically admitting that he lied when he said that he was totally unaware that Porter was behind on his utility bills until he learned about it by the city council, and that he had no idea why Porter's utility services were not cut off at 2 properties that the mayor owns due to the significant delinquency in more than $7,000 in arrears. The plea agreement drops the 2 charges of theft of government property against Harold. Meanwhile, his attorney did tell the media afterwards that this plea had no bearing on the Porter case, and that as of right now, they have no intentions on testifying one way or the other in the Mayor Bob Porter case. Harold does face up to 5 years in prison, $250,000 in fines, and 3 years of supervised release. And Harold is set to be sentenced on the 25th of July. As for the pending case against Porter and Crace, there is a motion for continuance filed on behalf of Ulysses Crace pending before the court, seeking a delay in the May 16 trial. However, since that filing, Porter has filed a motion to exclude the government's proposed 404 evidence, in which the government notified Porter that they would be introducing evidence back to 2006, in addition to the 2010-11 evidence as listed in the indictment. The government says Porter's course of conduct was not limited to just those 2 years. Those 2 motions were filed as recently as today. No decision by the court has been made as of yet. Court documents shed some light on the latest developments in the ongoing Magoffin County election fraud and conspiracy case due to a scheduling conflict. The attorney, that being Michael Curtis, who is representing Magistrate Gary Rooster Reisner in his defense, has requested a continuance in the vote buying and conspiracy trial, which is still set for May the 10th at this time. The attorney asking that the Magoffin County case be set for later on in June because the attorney has another case pending in the same time slot. Meanwhile, attorneys for Tammy Jo Reisner and Mason Daniels say that they have no objection to that continuance of the trial. The court has not yet issued an order on the motion to continue as of this time. A pretrial conference is still set for April the 28th. The trial still slated for May the 10th. We're still waiting to hear on the motion of continuance. Meanwhile, as for defendant Larry Shepard in the case, he was the other defendant who was asked to sign a protective order which would prohibit him and his attorney from talking to anyone else about any information that they would receive in regards to the government's evidence, witness lists, statements, grand jury transcripts, and other details, which the government says is standard operating procedure in election fraud cases. While Shepard's co-defendants have signed that protective order, Shepard's attorneys are arguing that doing so would significantly harm Larry Shepard's ability to defend the charges against him because it bars the defendant's counsel from discussing the contents of any statements with persons other than his staff or the client. The government says If the government, it says, gets its way, counsel would violate a court order if he were to discuss the contents of any statement, even with the person who made the statement. They also argued that doing so would violate Shepard's constitutional rights, and even more galling, it says, the protective order bans his counsel from talking with the person who made the statement about their own statement, and that goes way too far. In a response filed by the government this week, they say that their protective order, is identical to the one previously signed by counsel for co-defendants, and this court is very similar to those entered by the court in numerous other vote-buying cases in the district. And that another implicit assumption in the motion is that he is entitled to know the identity of the government witnesses and conduct an independent examination of them prior to trial. The government argues that, to the contrary, the general rule is that the government has no duty to disclose its witness list prior to trial, nor does the defendant have a right to conduct an independent interview of them. The government says Shepard wants his own set of the Jinx material to take home, and he wants to use that to confront government witnesses, and that simply cannot happen in these vote-buying cases. By their very nature, these cases are built on the testimony of poor, powerless, often substance-abusing individuals against the power brokers in the community. Their susceptibility to intimidation, both subtle and overt, is tremendous, and there have been a number of historical incidents to bear this out. The court has ruled on the motion and the response, saying that a defendant does not have a pretrial right to witness statements, but does have such a right to them after a witness is called and has testified on direct examination. Therefore, the plaintiff's motion for protective order is granted, that meaning that the government's request for him to sign the protective order has been granted. It also has a long list of stipulations saying that upon receipt of any transcripts, interviews, or any other form of witness statements, the counsel must take all necessary steps to ensure that those materials are not given to anyone other than the defense attorney, his or her staff, or the defendant, and the defendant may only have access to the statements under the supervision of his attorney, along with a host of other stipulations. And that shall leave us with this, a beautiful Licking Valley RECC forecast for your weekend and beyond. No complaints here, not a one. Tonight, 43, clear, skies alight, wind, beautiful, perfect. Tomorrow, more of the same, 72, 43, sunny and clear. Sunny and clear on your Sunday, temperatures pushing 80 with the nighttime lows right around the 50-degree mark. Monday, ditto, near 80, near 50, sunny, mostly clear. Tuesday, mid-70s, a little tiny bump in the road. I wouldn't even call it a bump. A thread across the road, 75, 45 for your Tuesday. Partly sunny. There are some clouds that roll in Tuesday night, but not to worry as of now. Wednesday, 73 and 49, still mostly sunny. There's a 10% teeny-weeny chance of some showers late Wednesday night. It's Thursday and Friday of next week that we'll get in possibly on some more rain. But the 70s, glad to say, are here to stay. That's certainly going to wrap it up for this evening for a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Friday evening. Enjoy your weekend. We're all very deserving of the weather ahead, and we hope you'll start off next week with us here at Your News Today for more news you'll only find right here. Every weeknight, 6 and 11, Howard's Cable Channel 7, Foothills Communications Channel 40, and, of course, on yournewstoday.com. Good night, everybody.